40,000 years ago, winter in parts of Europe could kill you in a single night. Temperatures plunged far below freezing. Blizzards buried entire landscapes. Food disappeared for months at a time. And yet archaeologists keep finding something that shouldn't exist. Human camps. Not small camps, not temporary shelters used for a few days. Entire communities lived through these winters. At one site, researchers uncovered evidence that people stayed through seasons that should have been impossible to survive. At another, they found families living near the edge of massive ice sheets where even many modern people would struggle without advanced equipment. The mystery wasn't that ancient humans faced these winters. The mystery was how they survived them. Because if you dropped the average person into those conditions today, they probably wouldn't last very long. So what did ancient humans know that kept them alive when the world seemed determined to freeze them to death? The obvious answer is simple: fire. Fire provides warmth, protection, and a way to cook food. It seems like the perfect solution. But there was a problem. Fire alone wasn't enough. A campfire keeps you warm only if you stay close to it. Step away, and the cold returns immediately. Wood has to be constantly collected. Strong winds can weaken flames. During long winters, fuel becomes harder to find. Yet ancient humans weren't merely surviving one night at a time. They were surviving entire seasons, which meant there had to be something else. And that's where things get strange. Archaeologists began looking at prehistoric shelters. What they found changed the picture completely. Many ancient humans didn't just build shelters, they engineered them. Some Ice Age homes were partially dug into the ground. That sounds simple, but it had a huge advantage. The earth acts like insulation. Instead of exposing themselves to freezing winds, people created spaces where temperatures remained more stable. The consequence was obvious: less heat escaped. That meant less energy was needed to stay warm. And if you need less energy during winter, you need less food. But this created a new mystery. How were they getting enough food in the first place? Because winter wasn't just cold, it was hungry. Plants disappeared, animals migrated, hunting became harder and more dangerous. One failed hunt could mean starvation. For years, scientists assumed ancient people survived mostly by reacting to whatever food they could find. The answer seemed obvious. It wasn't. Evidence from multiple sites suggested something unexpected. Many groups were planning months ahead. During warmer seasons, they hunted large animals and processed enormous amounts of meat. Some of it was eaten immediately. Some of it wasn't. Frozen landscapes could act like giant natural refrigerators. The consequence was incredible. Food could last much longer than it would in warm climates. That reduced the risk of starvation. But relying on stored food created another problem. How do you survive if your body can't generate enough heat? Because staying warm isn't just about shelter, it's about fuel. And ancient humans found a fuel source that changed everything. Fat. Not plant foods, not grains. Animal fat. Large Ice Age animals carried enormous reserves of calories. A single successful hunt could provide energy dense enough to sustain entire groups. The survival impact was enormous. Fat burns slowly inside the body. It helps maintain body heat. In extreme cold, that could mean the difference between life and death. But then scientists discovered something unexpected. The bones of many hunted animals told a strange story. Ancient humans weren't always targeting the easiest prey. Sometimes they were pursuing incredibly dangerous animals. Mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, massive bison. At first, this seemed reckless. Why risk injury or death? Then researchers realized something. These animals weren't just food, they were survival packages. Meat provided calories, fat provided warmth, hides provided clothing, bones provided tools and building materials. A single animal could support a community in multiple ways. The consequence was that one successful hunt solved several winter problems at once. But there was still another mystery. Even with food and shelter, exposed skin can freeze quickly in brutal conditions. So how did ancient humans avoid becoming victims of the cold itself? For a long time, people imagined prehistoric clothing as crude and primitive. Animal skin draped over shoulders, nothing sophisticated. The evidence didn't fit. Researchers found bone needles dating back tens of thousands of years, not sharp sticks, actual needles. Needles means sewing. And sewing means fitted clothing. This changed everything. Loose hides trap some warmth. Tailored clothing traps much more. Ancient humans weren't wrapping themselves in random animal skins. Many were creating layered garments designed for insulation. The survival impact was enormous. Warm clothing allowed longer hunting trips. Longer hunting trips meant more food. More food meant a better chance of surviving winter. But this created a new question. Who taught them all this? Because none of these skills appear by accident. Shelter construction, food preservation, clothing design, dangerous hunting strategies, each required knowledge, and knowledge creates another challenge. It must survive from one generation to the next. That's when researchers began focusing on something less visible than tools or bones: social cooperation. The discovery was surprisingly powerful. Humans weren't surviving winter as isolated individuals. They survived as networks. If one hunter got injured, others helped. If one family struggled, resources could be shared. Skills could be passed down. Mistakes could be remembered. The consequence was that knowledge accumulated instead of disappearing. Every winter taught lessons. Every generation inherited them. And suddenly a larger picture emerged. But then another twist appeared. Some evidence suggested ancient humans may have had one advantage many modern people underestimate. They understood their environment far better than we do. They tracked animal movements, recognized seasonal patterns, identified sheltered locations, predicted weather changes. To us, these seem like useful skills. To them, they were survival tools. Missing a migration route could mean starvation. Choosing the wrong campsite could mean freezing. The survival impact wasn't just comfort, it was existence. And that's why the story of Ice Age survival becomes so surprising. Many people imagine ancient humans as constantly struggling against nature, always on the edge of disaster. Sometimes they were, but the evidence reveals something more complicated. They weren't simply enduring the cold, they were adapting to it. They transformed animal hides into protective systems. They transformed landscapes into insulated shelters. They transformed dangerous hunts into food security. They transformed shared knowledge into a survival advantage. And that's where the biggest revelation appears. The secret wasn't one invention. It wasn't one tool. It wasn't even fire. It was the combination of everything. Each solution supported another. Clothing made hunting possible. Hunting provided food and hides. Food generated body heat. Shelters conserved that heat. Communities preserved the knowledge behind all of it. Remove one piece, and survival becomes much harder. Keep them together, and humans could endure winters that seemed impossible. Which finally answers the mystery. Ancient humans survived winters that should have killed them because they weren't relying on strength alone. They relied on adaptation. Again and again, they found ways to solve problems that nature placed in front of them. And that may be the most important clue about our species. When we look at the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, it's easy to focus on the cold, the snow, the ice, the danger. But those aren't the things that allowed humans to survive. What kept them alive was something far less visible: the ability to learn, to cooperate, to innovate. Because long before cities, agriculture, or modern technology, humans had already developed the skill that would eventually carry them across the entire planet. Not surviving in perfect conditions, surviving in conditions that should have been impossible.